Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us for the webinar, When Jira and Confluence Are Not Enough, Optimizing Agile Requirements Management for Enterprise Software Development. Presenters today are Tina Dankwart and Aaron Perillat. Tina is a senior value stream architect at Tasktop with 15 plus years of ALM experience building complex technical solutions, integrations, and reports. Previously, Tina served as a senior consultant for Mercury HPE Micro Focus. And at Tasktop, Tina helps organizations connect and visualize their end-to-end value streams to spot bottlenecks and identify new opportunities for optimization of their software development and delivery process. Aaron is a senior solutions architect with Jama Software. Aaron has 15 plus years of experience in the enterprise software world with a focus around requirements in industrial and automotive technology. In addition, Aaron has a deep understanding of regulated and risk-sensitive industries, working with Jama prospects and customers to recommend process improvements to achieve traceability across their product development process and help ease the burden of increasingly complex and competitive ecosystems. And with that, I will now pass the baton to Aaron to begin our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for those introductions. So product development is changing. Because of market disruptions, development teams are under pressure to move faster while creating quality products. To compete, product development teams are transforming work process and adopting new solutions to improve quality and time to market. So as we talk with companies who are developing next generation software and products, we have found that the following key factors lead them to seek options to improve their requirements management process. So first off, intelligent autonomous things like automobiles and robotics and other devices continue to fuel market disruption, and software introduces new challenges and risks. Further, devices connected with people are causing digital transformation. This is the leading development teams to move away from document-based approach that can lead to disjointed and misaligned teams across the development lifecycle. Further, regulatory pressure continues to trend toward increased regulations that govern product development. And finally, processes are also being transformed to modernize to meet these market demands, causing a drive to adopt agile platforms that support improved speed to market. This has led to a high adoption of agile platforms like Jira. So how does this impact the business? This increased complexity adds new challenges. First off, complicated development cycles necessitates automation and more modern tools. Work must be coordinated across hardware and agile software teams using different tools and methodologies. Connected products introduce security risks, mandating increased due diligence across requirements, design, and testing. Also, faster iterations are an evolving solution makes regulatory compliance more difficult and time-consuming. So organizations building software have focused heavily on how they approach the development and deployment process, with an emphasis on agile transformation and scaled agile integration with DevOps. They want to be well positioned to respond quickly to change without sacrificing quality. And one key important component is requirements management. So we find teams who integrate upstream planning and requirements in their development process are able to respond quickly to change without sacrificing quality, cost control, and speed of delivery. So products are changing, and are your people, processes, and technology keeping up? So business value is often what drives product development initiatives. The need to move fast while addressing customer needs and building predictability into the process puts a greater emphasis on requirements management. These recent market statistics show clear reasons why customers are focusing on improving requirements management. So first off, PMI recently cited the second most common reason for product failure is poor requirements management, with poor resource planning coming into as the most common reason. The Project Management Institute, PMI, recently noted that 51% of program funds are wasted due to poor requirements management. So a focus on quality requirements management throughout the product development lifecycle is critical to successful product launches. So where does Jama fit in here? The need for organizations to release high quality software to market has fueled a move to use more agile methodologies. Leading organizations are adopting DevOps and Agile methodologies to meet the demands of the market and are doing so by adopting a best-of-breed approach to multiple software solutions across the product development lifecycle. The best-in-breed requirements integrated to solutions across the development process have become an integral part of the ALM solution stack. So as a leading requirements management solution, Jama Connect makes it easy for teams to define, align, and execute on what they need to build, reduce lengthy time cycles, wasteful rework, and effort spent on proving compliance. So we have a unique combination of core capabilities to solve modern product development challenges. And these key capabilities include, first off, live traceability, which I think is an element that you expect in any requirements tool, but the easy usability of that is what really sets something like Jama apart, which allows you to instantly see how any set of items, requirements, tasks, tests, defects are connected and start a conversation about the impact with the people that are impacted. Change management facilitated diversion control across your engineering teams. Robust collaboration and decision tracking allows integrated stakeholder collaboration, including a purpose-built review center and sophisticated workflow to remove the frustration of cross-functional reviews. You can quickly reuse existing requirements to replicate across products, reducing rework across your organization. And streamlined compliance reporting with validated tools and processes helps you produce documentation for audit preparation as an output of your existing process. And this allows your organization to reduce time and effort involved in producing documentation around audits. Finally, test management brings quality teams to the development process earlier, streamlines reviews and approvals, and manages testing in real time. So the solution is extended through a RESTful API further, and our technology integration partners to connect requirements across the ALM ecosystem. Integrate to Jira issues and defect management, as well as test automation solutions for broader visibility into what your teams are building and why. So to summarize, Jama provides a purpose-built solution, integrated solution that has been designed to scale as your business grows. So it's a best-in-breed requirements management solution that allows teams to use the solutions and processes best suited for their jobs across the ALM ecosystem. It offers the flexibility to support your agile, scaled agile, or hybrid development process, really any process that you want to throw at it. It keeps data in sync to ensure accuracy and quality of work across the entire development lifecycle, and an extended solution across the ALM ecosystem through our REST API and integration partner Tasktop. So through the extended solution with our integration partner Tasktop, product and engineering teams can connect product development through execution to ensure everyone is working off the most current requirements and stakeholders are engaged and aligned. This enables collaboration and formal reviews to track requirements related to discussions and critical decisions across teams and geographies, and now not just related to the requirements you're tracking in Jama, but also all of the tasks and defects in Jira, any QA testing happening in any other tool or in Jama, or really any other connected environment as part of the larger ecosystem. You can gain real-time access to requirement status and progress and support a formal change management process across the entire development lifecycle. Produce end-to-end traceability from high-level requirements and the concept of what it is we want to build, all the way down through the tasks, defects, the testing of what it is we built, to ensure requirements are fully satisfied throughout the entire process. Prove compliance as an output of their existing process and access reporting and project volatility analysis. So let's take an example of how this supports a customer use case. In this example, Jama exchanges requirements and defects information across the ALM ecosystem through our integration partner Tasktop. We are able to bring these solutions together to link your Jira tasks and defects to Jama Connect requirements and tests. Link Jama Connect requirements and test cases to automated test solutions. link code management solutions to Jira, and to obtain full transparency, alignment, traceability, and change management throughout the entire process. So users get direct visibility into requirements and how their work fits into the broader development process. They also get real-time access to any changes that may occur to requirements to ensure accuracy and quality of the work. So I would like to hand the conversation over to Tina to talk further about how Tasktop enables your teams to utilize best-in-breed tools, and then we'll jump into a demonstration.
Hi, yes, thanks, Aaron. A bit more about my background, maybe. I used to look after some of the biggest single stack ALM solutions in the cloud for HP. And for many years, having a single stack solution seemed the best way forward. And many of the largest corporations invested heavily in these single stacks. The obvious temptation there being that you have everything in one place, fewer silos, easier reporting. You would assume that if everybody's in the same tool, they would talk to each other more easily. And of course, if it's all in the same tool, you would also think that all your definitions are the same and it makes reporting easier. The problem with that is that those tools very quickly become the jack of all trades and the master of none. And although that might sound a bit harsh, because usually what happens is they still sort of specialize in small bits. So if we're thinking about ALM, for example, their key piece is really the test management piece, and their requirement bit is a little bit of the poor relation, if you like. Next slide, please. So why best of breed tools? As our CEO and founder, Dr. McKesson, says, any tool that has attempted to be everything for everyone has failed miserably. Best of breed tools support distinctive and varied needs through specialization. And what do we mean by that? Well, I think it's clear that if you have superior investment in a small bit and you go for depth rather than breadth in terms of your functionality, that you're always going to be superior to somebody who's trying to do everything. You also optimize the key stages of software development and delivery. And that means that if you have a specialized tool and they have been invested heavily in that particular piece, then say my business analysts will benefit greatly, and that part of the process will be optimized. And if you chain those together, then each one of your key stages will be optimized. And finally, it unburdens the single stack tools, which were never meant to be doing everything. So anyone who has ever tried to scale Jira to 50,000 users, for example, will know that is fraught with problems. And these single stack tools were just never meant to do all of those things. And you have load issues and so on. Next slide, please. So why the big fear of a fragmented tool chain? And these are some of the questions we come across. So what about the waste? Doesn't that mean that everybody, the communication breaks down? Doesn't it mean we have more silos? If everybody works in their expert tool, how do they talk to each other? Those tools don't naturally talk to each other or share definitions. So if I have defects in Jira and I have defects in ALM, or requirements in Jama and requirements in Jira or epics, they don't share those definitions. How do I report across all of that? How can I make any sense of the entire chain? Next slide, please. So how to have your cake and eat it too. Integrating your tool chain is key. You automate that communication. You allow everybody to be in their tool and you bring the work to them. So if I have my requirements in Jama, I then automatically synchronize that into Jira, where it will be turned into an epic and broken down into tasks, for example. Or I might do the tasks in Jama already, synchronize the entire thing, and then break it down into stories. The developers might then sit in Jira. This way, you are bridging the silos. You cannot break silos. We've seen it even in a single stack. You will have people that work in different teams, and by synchronization and integration, you can then bridge those silos. You eliminate the duplicate data entry because our tool will take care of that. So it will make sure that these things flow automatically into the tools of choice. Finally, Tasktop provides model-based integration. And what that means is, I was talking earlier about those customizations. What if I have different defect definitions within the same tool and across the different tools? We provide a model. And what that means is that without having to talk to the different teams, you define what you want to report on. You have your one model, which sits in the middle. This is my definition of a defect with all the list values and all these items in there. And then I map the individual tools to it. The same goes for requirements, of course. And what that makes it possible to have easy reporting across the entire tool chain, because we can take those normalized values and feed them into a reporting database. Next slide, please. So this is what this looks like. This is actually what we refer to as a value stream architecture, and this is where we start the process. And this is actually a live or a real life example. This particular customer came to us with a single stack Micro Focus ALM instance, and they had already been toying a little bit with Jira. So their developers really liked Jira and they wanted to be there for their defect tracking. The ALM guys, they used it for their test management piece, but there were compliance and there was regulatory pressure. And for this reason, they needed a proper requirements tool. And so they invested in Jama, and we integrated the entire piece. So Jama with ALM and ALM with Jira. And as we were going along, we started adding more and more parts of their tool chain. So we added Jenkins and GitLab, and their testers decided they had an SAP testing piece and they wanted Tricentis Tosca for that. So we integrated this as well, synchronizing defects as well as tests and test executions and so on. And then the final piece, we had all of this working, and then they decided that they wanted to include for the full visibility, their operational piece as well. So the ITSM bit, they added Remedy into the equation, which meant automatically synchronizing change requests as epics into Jira, and incidents and problems as direct escalations as bugs into Jira. Next slide, please. And this is what this looks like in our tool. This is a screenshot taken from the tool. This is obviously not the customer's tool. This is something I set up. You can see here, and once again, to highlight the models, you can see here we have Jama. They process Jama requirements. The model I've put in the middle there is the feature model, and then the feature and epic model, and it gets translated into Jira as epics. I have also here, I'm synchronizing Tosca and Jira with a defect model in the middle, and you can see that I'm also using the defect model between ServiceNow and Jira. And this definition is global, and I'm siphoning it off, as you can see there at the bottom, into my reporting database, the ready normalized values that came from all the tools, and the models make this possible. We have over 60 connectors that we can connect now. We pride ourselves in always works all of the time. We have a test factory, meaning we test these different connectors every night, and we have early access to the vendor APIs. And what that means is you can upgrade your tools with confidence. Just because I'm upgrading one of the tools doesn't mean that my tool chain needs to break, because we have the early access and we make sure long before you install the upgrade that the APIs will work, and hence your integrations will work. And with that, I'd like to hand back to Aaron, who's going to show us exactly what this looks like.
All right, thank you for that. So I'm going to walk through a product demonstration. It's a bit of a simple use case. So let's transition over to what we're now looking at of a Jama interface. For those of you familiar with Jama, this is a project view. For those of you not familiar with Jama, we're managing a simple process here, a simple agile process where we're capturing the idea of what we want to build, breaking that down into the epics or kind of feature functionality that we're going to be developing at a higher level, breaking that down into individual stories or tasks, and then sending that back into Jama to test against what was recently delivered in a recent build, and also capturing any defects that we discover during testing or development. And so an end-to-end process from concept to testing that could include not only the state of where we're at any point within the process, but also the conversation and reviews around, are we meeting our needs? Are we hitting our deadlines? So in this case, I'm doing the epic and story creation in Jama and sending those over to Jira, and we're passing the status of what's being worked on back over into Jama and analyzing that at a dashboard level. And so as I expand what we call the Explorer tree, I can drill into an individual story or epic here. I could view these epics as a spreadsheet. I can view them as a larger list, as a document. We can filter on these down to what is in our backlog, what are we working on now, what did we recently deliver. In this case, I'm going to look at an individual epic, and I'm just going to make a subtle change. So as I save this change, I've got the integration set up to automatically synchronize changes across over into Jira. Now that could be much more robustly configured in Tasktop's interface to maybe be dependent on a filter of when it reaches a certain state of maybe assigned to a release. Then the changes would synchronize across, or the creation would synchronize across. But in this case, I am now looking at the same epic as it exists over in Jira. The change has not yet synchronized yet. I am further back in Jama going to create a new user story. Now the way that I've done this, traceability is automatically getting created. And so you don't have to go and connect things or pieces of your process after the fact. I already have direct traceability connecting me to my epic that this was created off of. Now back over in Jira, as I refresh this epic, you'll see that that change I made in Jama has come across. Now, on top of the changes that we make to the fields that we decide to synchronize, we also have conversations going back and forth. We have the traceability going back and forth. So there's a lot of extra metadata and characteristics around the artifacts or objects that we're making changes to and creating that we have power to how this information is flowing between our teams. If I look back in Jama now, and I look at the larger list of my stories, I can see that new story that I just created has a URL to Jira, meaning that it has been created in Jira as well. So now we see change come across, we've seen a new object, a new story in this case, come across, and we see that the link, in this case the epic link, has been supported, so the traceability is flowing as well. I'm going to move right through the development process on this story, and I am going to complete or resolve this story. And so now we're making changes on Jira's end and expecting those changes to flow back over into Jama. Looking at the list of stories that I have here, I can see the status of all the stories that have synchronized across for everything else that we're working on. It's a little bit misleading, I guess, because it shows that we have 2 things in the backlog that are in progress. So really these would be assigned to a release. But as I scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that that new story from Jama that we sent over to Jira to be worked on is still in an open state. Let me refresh that, and you'll see that that closed state has synchronized across. And so that workflow transition from Jira now is coming back over. Now from here, we could start a conversation if we want to. We could reach out to any of the people that have been working on this story or any of the connected stuff. So if we want to reach out to product and any product members that are working on the higher level features or themes or customer requirements that are driving the tasks we're working on, we could start a conversation with the last person to edit this or any people that might be impacted across our entire organization to make sure that we're all on the same page. And those conversations can synchronize back and forth between Jama and Jira as well. Coming back to my dashboard, looking at the analytics we have, I can see that I have 11 items that are currently in a closed state. And if I drill into these, I can see the new story that we created is now included in that analysis. Further, the analysis of what we are completing at the epic level shows a completion of all of the stories related to these epics, and that will increase as the story status synchronized back over into Jama. Now from this state, we could come over into our test management within Jama. We could go through the groups of tests for the recent feature functionality that was delivered in the last build. We can run through another cycle of testing, which allows us to do manual testing in Jama of where we can log results. We can also log defects right from this screen, which automatically get related to the tests and therefore the stories, epics, and themes that are connected to it. Those defects can synchronize over into Jira for status management as well. And now we're maintaining that full circle of traceability from end to end with multiple tools. And of course, as we talked about earlier, maybe we need to connect this to some automated testing tools or maybe an external defect tool. Any of the larger 60+ tools that Tasktop offers, we can really build out that larger ecosystem and keep all our teams involved and on the same path all at the same time to really speed up those delivery cycles and make sure that we're aligned on what we're trying to deliver. So with that, that is going to bring us to the end of the product demonstration. I'm going to switch back now, and we can kind of talk about next steps and answer some questions.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Just the next steps for everyone. If you're not already using Jama, you can try a free trial of Jama. So the website is listed below, and again, this slide deck will be sent out so you can get these URLs. But that is the next step there to actually try the product. And then on the Tasktop side of things, we offer a free value stream architecture consulting session. And that's going to help you identify the value streams within your organization and see, what tools you have end to end and how you can flow work between those tools. And then, yeah, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact both Jama or Tasktop. And with that, if you do have questions right now, we do have a few that came in. Please put them in the GoToWebinar control panel questions box, and we will get started on our Q&A. So our first question was, is the scenario in the demo limited to Jira Cloud, or will it work on server as well?
Yeah, this is Aaron. I can take that question. So it definitely works on both. And that same goes for Jama. So both Jama and Jira, in this case, you could have one of them being self-hosted, one of them in the cloud, both of them self-hosted, both of them in the cloud. All of those scenarios are supported.
Great, thank you. Next question is, how does synchronization time relate to project size?
Okay, this is Tina, I can answer that. So the project size, the way it works, first of all, you can set up an interval, and the way that this works, that if it's a particularly large project, we don't have to scan through everything. The full scan happens the first time, and after that, only the items that have been changed will be scanned, and you can imagine them being put onto a heap, and then we go through them one by one. So we use the search algorithms of the tools, I believe, so it's incredibly efficient. So the overall project size shouldn't matter. There is a way that if you're dealing with a tool such as ServiceNow, where you have no projects available, you can set repository queries, which means you don't actually have to query the entire project at all. So there are many different ways that you can reduce that in the cases of it being too small, but we do have one of our biggest customers is one of the biggest ALM solutions we have globally, and even they are not having any issues with performance. I'm assuming that's what the question is around. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. And kind of related to that, could you speak to how long does it on average take to set up an integration?
So that's a little bit how long is a piece of string. The record, I think, that I have managed is about 5 minutes. The thing that takes time, though, is not really the technical bit. So you can set up an integration incredibly quickly. You connect to your endpoints, you connect, it is much more about thinking exactly what it is you're trying to achieve and what you want. You want to think it through very carefully, exactly what information. There's always a temptation, oh, I'm just going to synchronize, integrate everything. But actually to think what should be flowing, in which cases, only maybe if a status is a particular, if it's ready, for example, should it flow into Jira and so on. So the design of it takes much more time, or should take more time, because it wants to be well thought through. The technical bit is incredibly quick.
Awesome. The next question we have is, do all stakeholders need to have Jama to use the collaboration tool?
Great question. So as far as the licensing of Jama goes, collaboration is highly promoted. So whether you're a developer in Jira, external stakeholder who's never even seen either of the tools before, there is a bulk site license that's included in the licensing of Jama that allows you to bring everybody you want to into as many reviews as you want and as many of those conversations as you want. And so there's no limit to who you can include in there and how many of the conversations you can have.
Great, thank you. Next question is, can many Jama requirements be related to a single epic in Jira?
So that's a good question. The relationship structure in Jama is many to many. So you can have everything related to as many of everything else as you want to. Obviously, there's some restrictions in Jira, and that the idea of an epic link can only have one, can have many stories, but one story can only have one epic. And so Tasktop actually has a nice ability to be able to transform that and manage the many to many versus the one to many. So they have a process around how to handle that situation. From the Jama side of things, though, you can have many requirements related to many downstream artifacts of any type. Which really, again, allows us to support any customer process. You throw at it, waterfall, hybrid, agile, whatever it is.
Great. Next question is, does creation have to start in Jama or can it come from Jira as well?
Been a little unclear in the demonstration, being that we did all of the creation on the Jama side, but absolutely, if your process mandates that you're writing your stories, writing your epics in Jira, but you want those to be back in Jama to be better connected to the higher level product, stakeholder, customer requirements that are driving what you're building, you absolutely can have the creation start in Jira and synchronize over into Jama. It goes both directions. Creation can happen on either side, and that also exists for the larger ecosystem of all tools that you're using. Change really is mandated of what do you want to synchronize in what direction and when do you want that to go.
Awesome, thank you. Another question is, does Jama have a build and configuration management for handling requirements baselines and corresponding test cases, for example?
So I think that when we're talking about requirements management, I think traceability being that leading artifact, I think change management is the leading capability of why we use that. Being able to make a change, whether it's the discovery of a really serious problem in testing, or we make a substantial change to a product requirement at the top, being able to understand the impact of that change across the entire process really clearly, but more importantly, being able to wrap our arms around the people that need to be included in that conversation so everyone understands the impact is really the strong use of Jama. Now, on top of that, robust baselining of an individual requirement, being that there's robust version history down to individual field changes that never goes away, but also up to the document level, up to entire products or systems or projects that we're putting out the door, variants of different releases. All of that can be baseline and snapshotted so that we can review that at a later time. Go back and create branches off of previous baselines to now create a variant off of something that we did in the past. We can get pretty complex with that, but it definitely has those capabilities.
Awesome. And we did get one more request. If you could just go back to the previous slide, Aaron, just so that they can see the next steps. And then we have one more question. All right. We already have a QA service with their own tools. So do Jama manage QA test or the application test of the POs or client?
Confused by that. Let me just try to answer it. Ultimately, we saw that we did some manual testing in Jama. Jama only has manual testing, so it does not have automated testing, and you do not have to use the testing environment in Jama, in that if you had manual testing occurring in another tool, any tool supported by Tasktop, and if it wasn't supported by Tasktop, we do have a REST API of which you can integrate like a homegrown tool that you developed internally for testing. That could also be connected to Jama. If on top of the manual testing part of it, you had automated testing happening in something like Jenkins or another tool as well, that again is where the Tasktop integration can be very robust to kind of connect the dots between all of those moving pieces. And so there's, I think, quite a bit of capabilities of whatever your testing environment, I think there's a solution to integrate and connect all of these tools.